This Italian Grand Prix 2024 betting picks edition of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code RACESGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. Get ready for speed.
You just wait, sunshine. You just wait.
Get ready for the passion.
To whom it may concern you.
Get ready for the raw emotion.
Sì, ragazzi! Grazie, grazie, grazie! Dai, forza Ferrari!
Get ready for the F1 Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb. Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the F1 Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He's Cody Zeeb. I'm Rod Villagomez, fresh off the heels of the first race back from the summer break. And wouldn't you know it, Max Verstappen does not win again. Cody, this is becoming an epidemic, my friend. I don't know what the one car is going to do, not nestled in victory lane every week.
It's good to see, man. We talked about it last week. F1 is back to what it had been prior to the Max dominance. We saw it really play out this weekend. I don't have an SVG chant for this guy, but how about Gasly, Gasly, Gasly? Got it done for us last week. Great return to the betting picks for the F1 Gambling Podcast last week. And they're blessing us with 2 races in a row. So get to turn right around, do it again. And boy, I gotta give a shout out to our guy Layerden over at DraftKings and the bookmakers out there. Pretty quick on the turnaround. This race was Sunday morning here in the U.S. By Sunday evening, we already had outrights ready. And then, full slate of picks and odds for us to give out today. Gotta love it.
You gotta love it. And we say it all, we keep saying it all the time. We're like, we wish we had it quicker. And guess what? We did have it quicker. And look, There's a lot out there to choose from. Although I will say, and I can't fault the books for this, because when you look at the standings and you look at every week in the F1, the top 6 are usually the top 6. Like, it's Ferrari, it's McLaren, it's Red Bull, right? It's Mercedes every once in a while. Those teams dominate the top 10. So it's very difficult to not lose your ass every time when you're so the odds, like, we get a lot to choose from, but unfortunately with the lack of
some things are very watered down. It's like, well, yeah, you're obviously not gonna bet on one of the McLarens to finish in the top 6 because, well, the odds are a bit ridiculous. But that's where you search around and find stuff, and that's what makes betting on F1 a lot of fun. And you get to throw some shots out there, which we're going to do today, and I like it.
Indeed. Let me tell you real quickly, though, that everything in the merch store, our SGPN merch store, is 10% off right now with promo code FOOTBALL. Recommend grabbing some of the awesome Racing Gambling Podcast stuff that we've got in there, whether it's a hoodie, whether it's a shirt, whether it's a coffee mug, whatever it is, it's in there. The Racing Gambling Podcast logo proudly displayed on it. Go get yourself some of that. Use the promo code FOOTBALL. You get 10% off of everything in the store from now until NFL kickoff. Plus, college football kicked off this week. Tune into Sports Gambling Podcast and College Football Experience for all your Week 1 picks. Speaking of picks, we did that last week at the Dutch Grand Prix. We talked about it too, Cody. I mean, again, this is another one where Max Verstappen did not win. Lando Norris takes home. I picked the wrong damn McLaren, unfortunately, for this one, but good to see Lando really taking. This is a race now, Cody. This is a race.
Yeah, and we talked about that a couple of weeks ago when we did our kind of mid-season summer break futures look. Like, it really is a race for the constructors title. The driver's title is not completely locked up for Max by any means. I think we're going to get ourselves a nice little battle out to the end, and really kind of coming into each and every week, you don't know who's going to win these races, and things are open. Obviously, a couple of guys are still more towards the top than than others, but I think you're going to make a pretty strong case for a few guys that you haven't seen win in a little bit. But there's a lot of teams and drivers that can win in F1 right now, and love to see it.
Yeah, Max gets edged out for the pole as well. How crazy is that? Like, we were used to seeing Max on the pole all the times. Yeah, for sure. Preston checking in the chat too. Boys, why are neither of you wearing orange? Look,
I'll be wearing orange by the end of the show. Don't worry about it.
I was gonna say my papaya, it didn't come in yet. I'm still wearing gray.
I got let's see where we at. Right here. Right there. There's my bottle of oh god, I can't. This is difficult. Right there. My bottle of McLaren Jack Daniels back there. So yeah, that's my McLaren for the show.
Little jealous of that one for sure, but yeah, I mean, this was a good overall race. I know that we saw Hamilton take a grid penalty, have to throw some softs on, made that work. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the strategies that they came in with, they kind of ditched because the race was playing out a whole lot differently. You watch some battles go out that really they had to create pockets for themselves to be able to pit. This was a very strategic race. Obviously, Lando Norris was able to withstand everything. He lost the lead, and then
that was the thing. Is you look at the final score and you're like, oh my god, he won by 22 seconds, like how Max Verstappen-esque, right? But it wasn't just that easy. He did lose it early on there, and then had to kind of fight back. Once he fought back and got it, he took off with it for sure. But yeah, it gave us a little bit of drama and a lot of fun there.
It sure did. Our bets, some of them hit, some of them didn't. I tell you, Cody, I know one of yours definitely hit, your first one.
Yeah, I started off with Pierre Gasly. Points finish 4-1. Comes home in 9th place. That is a points finish. So that one cashes for us. Then I also took him as the winner without the big five. So, of course, that's the McLarens, the Red Bulls, the Ferraris, the Mercedes, and the Aston Martins. He finishes in 9th place behind just about all of those guys except for the Aston Martins. He did beat both of those, but he did it. He was the top dog. He was in 9th, Alonso 10th, and then Hülkenberg was the next guy that was, not the big five. So it gets it done. Cashes the 4-1 and cashes the 10-1. Hopefully you played both of those. I like talked about why I like both of them. And luckily they both kind of panned out for us. And yeah, that was the day there. I mean, the rest of my bets not so good, but he cashed 10-1 and a 14-1. Things pretty good.
Yeah, and not just that, but like he was the first car a lap down, honestly. And it's a short track, obviously. It's a shorter track. That's not a short track as what NASCAR is appropriate or thinks is a short track. But yeah, I mean, 8 cars on the lead lap. Lando was just crushing it. So yeah,
yeah, he was taking care of business.
Yeah, he was definitely taking care of all the business. I had Yuki Tsunoda over Daniel Ricciardo. I am furious at how this went down. Yuki Tsunoda stops like 3 different times, could not get back up there. He ends up finishing in 17th. Daniel Ricciardo finishes 12th. But I mean, Yuki outqualified Daniel, and pit strategy kind of screwed him over. And Daniel Ricciardo only pitted once, I believe, if not twice. But Yuki Tsunoda pitted like 3 times. It was insane. Like every time I'm looking up, Yuki's in the pits. I'm like, what the hell's going on? This is not working out for me. So unfortunately, qualification was there. He just didn't hold on to the position and couldn't beat his teammate this year.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate. The Yuki's like kind of turning a little bit on the cold side of things. I was constantly on him, and then it just seems like the last couple of races he's kind of started to fall back. So Preston checking in. Rod, V-Carb waited until you bet Yuki to give him a crap strategy instead of Ricardo.
Sure did.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there, Preston. That's exactly what happened. So I had Red Bull double podium, 14-1 over on DraftKings. This didn't hit, but I don't think that it was a bad bet by any means. Verstappen comes home in 2nd. Perez is 6th place. I mean, this is kind of what you expected, but it was 14-1. That's why you take it, right? You end up with Hamilton having just a disastrous qualifying effort. And it's like, okay, one guy out of the way that you're worried about finishing ahead of him or maybe on the podium, right? Russell doesn't qualify that well either. Perez actually qualified in 5th place. So all he's got to do is gain 2 spots. Maybe there's somebody in front of him has an issue. Maybe they can strategy leap him up there. So 14-1, I feel like this was a pretty good bet. Doesn't cash, obviously, as Perez comes in 6th place. But I don't mind having had it in the back pocket and hit some other big ones instead. But I feel like this was a good bet to make still.
Yeah, again, there was a lot of strategy that didn't necessarily play out the way they all wanted it to, and I think that was a lot of why Red Bull was sort of off of it as well. I had Ocon to finish in the points at plus 400. Ocon did not even come close to finishing in the points. He finished 15th. I say not close. I know 5 spots doesn't seem like it's that far off, but boy, when you're talking about what this race played out, Ocon was not going to be in the top 10, unfortunately. And so double Alpine points did not happen either. Man, Alpine. I know Gasly got in there, but Ocon did not hold up his end of the bargain.
Yeah, I mean, you got your half of your 22-1, which is a good start, obviously. But yeah, Ocon just struggled, didn't get out of Q3, and really the weekend just kind of stayed there. I had Lewis Hamilton finish on the podium plus 150. Obviously, this was not really anywhere close to hitting, although he did recover for an 8th place finish, which really not too bad when you consider he qualified 11th. Then he took a three spot grid penalty and started, I think, at 14th. Recovered for a decent day, but once he had the qualifying issues, you kind of knew that this one was sunk, unfortunately. But going back looking at the stats we had to it, don't think it was a bad bet to make. That's how it goes. And that's F1. The numbers swing so massively either way, because you place that at plus 150. Obviously, he has a bad qualifying, and you could have probably got it at 8-1 or something crazy before the race. But as he comes out and qualifies in the top 4, top 3, well, now it's suddenly on the other side of things where it's minus 200. So you just got to kind of call your shots going into the week. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, and it sunk the Mercedes double podium at plus 450. Russell came out and qualified 4th and really just got kind of torched on the start too, and that was the end of that. Strategy couldn't really get him far up. He finished in 7th and 8th place. 7th and 8th place for the Mercedes. Last I checked, 7th and 8th is not on the podium. Therefore, that did not cash.
Yeah, unfortunately, just back to qualifying, kind of not a good weekend for Mercedes, which that's how it goes sometimes. So speaking of that, I had Lewis Hamilton to win. Obviously, we just talked about him. Also threw him out as the fastest lap to win the race. Didn't do either of those, of course. And then I had Checo Perez at 9-1 for fastest lap. Also did not hit that, as it ended up being Lando Norris said it on the last lap, I think it was, or with 2 laps to go. He's like, he did what Max used to do. He's like, oh yeah, I think I'll just grab this extra point here, which, hey, every point's going to count for him, especially in that drivers' championship battle as it continues to go forward. So props to him for getting it done, but did not cash it with Checo.
When you're 22 seconds up and you still find pace to throw down the fastest lap, that is a scary proposition for the rest of the field. Speaking of that, I picked the wrong McLaren. I picked Piastri at plus 550. Not too bad considering that Piastri at times was somewhere on the podium conversation. He did finish 4th in this one. Unfortunately, Charles Leclerc ended up getting him. And this is the way it is. The McLarens were actually 2 of the fastest. They were hunting for a double podium, but I think they brought Piastri in late, right, is what it was. And he couldn't find his way back up there again to get to the podium. So
yeah, and then he sort of, I think, screwed a little bit of the strategy at the beginning when Lando just got off to a bad start, and boy, the McLaren's just not great at the initial race starts for whatever reason. They seem to make it up during the race, but they need to work on their reaction time or something. But that's how it goes.
Preston saying Lando set the fastest lap on the last lap. McLaren boss said he didn't ask, just did it. Had he asked, the answer would have been no. Well, this is why you beg for forgiveness instead of ask permission. Duh.
There you go. Hey, if you still got it left in you at the end, why not?
That's being in the military 101. Never ask for permission. Just beg for forgiveness, because chances are the answer is going to be no anyways, and you would have missed out on an exciting time. But that was Dutch. That was the Dutch Grand Prix, right? So we'll look ahead now to the Italian Grand Prix here in just a second. But I would like to take this opportunity to tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy Pick'em gave you a chance, or gives you a chance, to win 1,000 times your entry or play fantasy football the right way with Best Ball. Best Ball Mania is live with $15 million in prizes. You can now use specials and boosts on all flexed entries. Going to use mine on some F1 plays. We'll probably give out later on our YouTube channel, so make sure you're checking that out as well. So, in the meantime, sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. Essentially, any McLaren, if they give them a 6 or better, then you take that and you run with it, because it seems to be where the McLarens live now. I would put it at like 4. That would be mine. 4.5. That'd probably be mine. Or would you do 3.5?
There you go. Yeah, I think, if you're getting either of those guys at those numbers, you probably do take the better then.
Well, yeah, you definitely take the better then on that one. I'm over here playing with the mute button on my thing because I'm just like I'm clearing my throat too much for my own liking. So,
well, I hadn't noticed, Rod, but now that you pointed it out, I'm sure I will.
You will. You've these guys out here don't know. They don't know that this board has the mute button. All right. It is the Italian Grand Prix this weekend from Monza, everybody's favorite track that looks like a foot, which, Italy looks like a boot, right? So this essentially looks like the foot that goes in the boot.
Goes in the boot. Hey, there you go. I like it.
Just flipped on the other end of that. But 53 laps, 5.793 kilometers, just over 3.1 miles for a race distance of 306.72 kilometers. Lap record, 1 minute and 21 seconds, set by Rubens Barrichello in 2004. Wow, we are set for 53 laps around this track, Cody. It's this one's a doozy.
Yeah, it is. This is a lot of high speed straight runs in this track, but then you have nice tight chicane turns as well. So it's going to be a fun one, and I'm pretty excited.
2 DRS zones for this one. And of course, all 20 drivers are the same 20 drivers you see week in and week out. So I believe, Cody, that we could probably, you don't think this looks anything like anything else, right? This is just a foot to you.
No, I mean, the foot, it's a long foot with a bit of a fat ankle, but it's a foot inside the boot for sure.
It is a foot inside the boot. Surprise, Max Verstappen, the winner of the last couple on this track. So, but as we have seen this season, that does not mean anything, because the rest of the field is now caught up with Max Verstappen. And here we are chasing down another week where maybe Max Verstappen doesn't win this race.
Here we are, Rod. Are we ready to get into the bets?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Let's do it. You want to kick off the show with your bet first, since you're going to qualifying? We'll do it a little bit out of order.
Ooh, is everybody ready with that? Okay, I think they're okay.
Are you ready for that? Is the biggest question.
I am. Listen, so I'm going to go ahead and go with the qualifying bet, and I don't know that we haven't seen this in a while, or we just haven't. It's been a while, right? Since Max Verstappen has been at a pretty decent price for qualifying, and so this week he's plus 250 to qualify on the pole. I'm not gonna go into the heavy stats on this one, because obviously you could go into heavy stats over the last several years, the last couple of years, and Max Verstappen comes out on top of all of those, right? I'll say this: the last few weeks, up to the break and this past week after the break, we have seen McLaren especially and Mercedes dip into it. We've seen Ferrari kind of chip away at Red Bull's dominance. I think that last week was a wake-up call to Red Bull and to Verstappen, because obviously he's not used to getting beat by 22 seconds. He's used to being the one to beat people by 22 seconds. And you heard him on the radio and how unhappy he was, first and foremost, which, I mean, even when he's winning, he seems unhappy. But second of all, you know that there's some panic in this now. You can tell that Verstappen is starting to I don't want to say get less confident, because he's never going to do that. But there's some what do you call it? There's some unease, I guess, if we'll put it that way. There's some concern there that now there's not that same level of dominance. So you got to think that if weather is not a factor, that Red Bull is going to pour everything they have into qualifying well, getting back on the pole, letting Max get that first lap and just go, right? And so, like I said, at plus 250 for Max to sit on the pole this week. He barely got beat out last week, by Lando. It wasn't as if he got crushed, but there's something there now, and they need to get back on track. And the way to do that is to win the pole again in Monza.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, it's still Max Verstappen, right? We know he's one of the best drivers in the entire world, and he's still in a fast Red Bull car. It's not like, yes, everybody else has not everybody else, but a lot of teams have caught up and they're being, challenged now. But he's still fast. Preston, who's in the chat right now, I know he was making some good points in the Discord before. A lot of straight line speed here that maybe goes into play for Red Bull and helping them get on the pole here. As he kind of pointed out, McLaren struggled a little bit more with that type of speed for the most part. So, I think, man, I mean, you'd have said going into the season, you get Max Verstappen plus 250 to sit on a pole. You'd have signed up for that real quickly. So I like it.
Indeed. I mean, the only other way I could even see myself going would be Ferrari on the pole. Charles Leclerc has been on the pole the last 2 seasons of this. And obviously, if you've got you in your own backyard, and we're going to go heavy, we're going to go pretty heavy on the Ferrari later on. But yeah, if you're in your own backyard, then, Ferrari, let's see, Leclerc's at 11-1. So that would be like a bonus sprinkle, I guess, if you wanted.
There you go. Bonus sprinkle from Rod. Look, he did it last week on the NASCAR show. He added something over there, and it worked out for him. So here he is doing it again. Rick checking in. We need a Verstappen versus Larson head to head. Yeah, we do. I would love to see it. We'll see. Maybe someday, Rod. Maybe someday. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's kind of what I'm going with on this first bet from me. Pierre Gasly, points finish. It was plus 400 for us last week. It's plus 450 for us this week. Doesn't completely make sense to me. Finished 15th place last year here. So not the best of runs, of course, in the Alpine. He did finish 8th here in 2022. Of course, that was with the Red Bull V-Carb team, as they're now known. But still, he was 8th place here in 2022. I think he could get it done again. He's coming off a 9th place finish last week. He just, he cashed both those bets that we talked about earlier, where he cashed us the top 10 and he cashed us the best of the rest bet, basically. So I'm going to continue to ride that momentum. If you look at that 9th place last week, he was 13th in Belgium, and then he had 2 bad races before that, right? Hungary finished in dead last, didn't even get to start the British Grand Prix after the wrecks in practice and qualifying. But before that, 4 straight points finishes. He's been on a pretty solid run kind of down the stretch here. If you throw out those couple of bad finishes, that's a lot of points finishes over the last handful of races here. So just going to continue to ride that hot hand with Pierre Gasly. Give me a points finish for him again at plus 450.
I like that he's actually been a consistently solid driver that can make himself into that top 10, that points finish. Because like I said, when you have 5 spots and 2 drivers for those 5 teams, that's 10 cars. It's so difficult nowadays to bust into that. But we have seen Aston Martin sort of fall out of favor, right? We've seen Alonso kind of and Stroll not necessarily be the Aston Martin that we remember from even last
They're
season.
barely hanging on to being the top 5 best group there. I think Alonso just barely keeps them in that classification week to week.
I was going to say, I don't know how many weeks we have left of them going big 5. I think they're going to drop back.
Well,
down
and we'll see if it comes out this week, but we were looking for it before the show because we were curious on numbers, and it's not available to bet right now. So, which we got them pretty good on it last week. Hopefully a lot of you did as well. And maybe they're just rethinking their strategy on that, but be interesting to see if they do actually post those lines this week.
Remember a couple of seasons ago when it was the big 3, when it was Ferrari, Mercedes, and
Red Bull.
And
Yep.
then they jumped it out to 4 with Aston Martin, then 5 with McLaren.
McLaren got tossed in there. Yep, they just kept increasing it, and now, might be time to take one off the bottom side soon.
I think it is. All right, we'll continue to get into our bets, but let me tell you first about Rhythm. Have you ever wanted to create your own sports betting model for football? Do you even know what a sports betting model is? SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all skill levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me, and Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. The Rhythm College football model, love Delaware State and the points this weekend. Build your own model and get ready for week 1 in college football. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. I suppose it's back on me, Cody. Although Preston's saying my Ferrari excitement is contained to seeing how much hype they can generate over special livery for their home race, just to add some yellow and sell 3M hats as soon as they go on sale.
Ferrari is an interesting bunch, Rod.
They really are. They really are. You gotta love
you
it.
have this big fan base, and you could take, you can actually do something creative, and they just don't get that creative usually.
No, they do not. All right. I'm going to go and take a second place bet. I don't normally take second place bets because it's so difficult to take second place bets. But in this instance, I think Lando Norris is a good second place bet to make, plus 350. If he doesn't win this race, he's going to come in second. Like there's no way that I think he comes in any worse than second in this race. And I don't necessarily think he's going to win this race. Now, obviously, he can. Obviously, he probably will. I just personally see somebody else winning this race because, well, this is the Italian Grand Prix, and I know it's been a while since Ferrari has been in the winner's circle here, but I'll talk to you about that in a second. However, even if he doesn't, I'd said earlier, Red Bull is pissed right now. They're watching their Constructors' Championship get bitten into because poor Perez can't hold up his end of the bargain, and Max is trying to carry it all by himself. A couple seasons ago, right? I mean, it was Perez, it was Verstappen. These guys were either 1-2, 2-3, 1-3, whatever, right? But now it's like 1-5, 2-6. Like it's not what it used to be, and so now they're starting to panic, like I said, a little bit. So if they don't get Max on the pole, if they don't get Max in victory lane this week, then there's definitely cause for alarm in that Red Bull paddock. So I'll tell you right now, I believe that Lando Norris will not be the winner of this race because there's too many other people right now that are fighting very hard to get back into victory lane. And for Lando Norris, he does have several second place finishes. Second place at Shanghai, second high at Imola, second place in Montreal, second place in Catalonia, and then second place again in Hungary, or the I would say Hungarian, but yeah, that was Hungarian Grand Prix. So yeah, there's a lot of second place finishes for Lando. He's definitely a car that can win, but I think there's a lot of other drivers out there that really want this win. Well, obviously they really want this win. Good analysis, Rod. No, listen, there's a lot riding on this next race, right? Because this is the one that sets the tone for the rest of the season. And I think they're going to try to out-strategize him. I think they're going to pay attention to where he's at. And in Lando, like I said, we'll finish second in this race at plus 350. That's my second place bet.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with this one. I mean, he's been in the mix a lot. He's got 5 second place finishes in the last 11 races. Pretty solid. I have more thoughts on Lando in a bit, so we will circle back to that. My next bet, Rod, I'm going to go out on a little bit of a limb here. This is where I've decided my my long shot spot is going to be every week. Last week I had the Red Bull double podium. Didn't cash, but hey, long shot, had some life. I liked it. This one, Rod, Alex Albon, top 6 finish, 16-1 over on DraftKings. I know you're thinking to yourself, well, Alex Albon doesn't finish in the top 6 very often. No, he doesn't, and I completely get that. But, Rod, last year in this race, he finished in 7th place in a Williams, not having the best of seasons this year, but managed to get a 7th place finish here last season. I like that. Go back to 2022 race here. Nick DeVries got a 9th place finish here in a Williams car. I like that as well. Albon just a tad bit better than DeVries, right? We know that. If you look at, I wanted to bet Albon to finish in the points, but he's minus 105 to finish in the points. So they're fairly certain he's going to be right in the mix for the points. Well, if he's minus 105 and all he has to do is finish 4 spots better, are you going to need some help for this bet? Absolutely. Somebody's going to have an issue. Sergio Perez is going to have to fuck up in qualifying. There's going to have to be something where there's a grid penalty for Lewis Hamilton and he finishes 8th like last week. You're going to need some things to happen to help you get into the top 6. But I think he's going to be in the points mix at the end of the day with a chance to maybe put himself up in there if he can get some position. We know that Albon is a good driver, and I think put in the right position, right strategy call, maybe he could have himself up there. He was disqualified from qualifying last week, so ends up starting at the back of the grid, still drives up to 14th place. It's actually fairly impressive for the, not that much passing that we see in general. 12th place finish at Belgium, couple of points finishes already this season. So it is going out on a limb, 16-1 for a reason. But I think he could put himself in the right position. And we just randomly will see these guys. A Gasly gets a podium or finishes in the top 6, or in this case, Albon, top 6. I just think that that he's got a chance to put himself in the mix. 16-1, the number is right, and seems a little lopsided when he's minus 105 to finish just 4 spots worse in the points mix there.
Yeah, and again, this is one of those ones where you're praying for it. You're hoping for a little bit of chaos up front too, to kind of happen as well. Alex Albon, Preston says, I like the Albon love. Upgrades last race, and Williams have been a rocket ship in a straight line speed track since the new regs in 2022.
I like it. I like it when Preston backs me up. He knows his shit.
Too bad his teammate. I keep wanting to do the last qualified.
No,
I'm glad I didn't last week, because that would have not.
Yep. Yep. He's just enjoy these last few races having an American F1 driver.
Seriously, it's probably not happening again. All right, I'm going to move on to the fastest pit stop. It's been a while since I've been here, so I'm coming back to it. Red Bull's at minus 175, folks. If you want it, take it. I can't argue with it. These guys tend to throw down some super fast pit stops. In fact, they did it last week as well. 2.18 was the fastest pit stop for actually, that was the Red Bull team. Never mind, that was RB. That was the Racing Bulls, not Red Bull. You got to love that. Wow, Yuki Tsunoda, 2.18 seconds. They got it. McLaren was the next one on that one. Boy, I saw RB. I was thinking to myself, Red Bull, and that wasn't it. So I'm going to give out 2. I'm going to give out the Ferrari fastest pit stop. Again, this is their backyard. They are going to want to be the best at everything they can do. Plus 550 for Ferrari to be the fastest pit stop. And McLaren also is at plus 550. I'll give that one out as well. Season standings, Red Bull's on top with 411 points, but behind them, Ferrari at 260, McLaren at 187. Next to the Red Bull, Ferrari has the next fastest pit stop. They have the 5th fastest, Ferrari does. Red Bull occupies the first 4 spots, but Ferrari has the 5th fastest pit stop. They're the only other constructor other than the Racing Bulls with a 10th place there in the charts. So, look, it's one of these 3 teams, right? It's always between Red Bull, it's always between Ferrari, and it's always between McLaren. Those 3 teams, other than last week, which was a complete anomaly, we can say that it's been one of those 3 teams with the fastest pit stop. So I think a good strategy is take something like that and kind of spread it like a first touchdown type of a thing, right? And see where that's at.
Oh, I like it. Hey, you're getting. It's not like these are 2 bad teams, and you're getting 2 good teams that have done it a few times, and they're both a plus 550. I think it's a solid strategy. Your pit stops, Rod. I'm not going to argue with you on that.
I do. Well, until the RBs, right? The Recarb team comes in and steals one with Yuki Tsunoda. Well,
everybody pops up. Although that helped a lot, right? Him having a fast pit stop really helped their day, didn't it? Right?
No, and that was one of the 15 times he came into pit too. That's what pissed me off.
Yeah, when you get a lot of chances, it's one of those things. The more reps you get, the better chance you have. So there you go. It was like pit stop practice for him.
All right, where are we going next?
So I went with winning margin, Rod. I went back and forth and I could make a case for many of these different, because there's less than 6 seconds, there's 6 to 12, there's more than 12, there's 5 to 10, there's more than 10, all at different numbers. And I was looking around and I was like, man, how do you play this? And so I landed on the winning margin between 6 and 12 seconds, at plus 275. This one's over on DraftKings. This is the one that I'm going to go with. The number I think is right because there's not necessarily a clear winner, I think, where all the trends kind of point at everything. So give me 6 to 12 seconds, plus 275. Look back over the last 2 years. It was only 6 seconds by Max last year, 2.5 the year before. So you could look at, well, less than 6, but it was 6 point something, so it was more than 6. So I think 6 to 12 is a good place to kind of settle in at. You go back and you look over the last many races, and it's been very close victories until last week, where obviously Lando lit the world on fire and beat everybody by 22 seconds. So not to give too much away in my winner picks, but I think that we're starting to see something from McLaren here, and I think that that's going to kind of be the new thing that we're going to be watching is McLaren whipping up on everybody. We saw the 22 seconds, and how much ease did he get to a 22-second lead with if he was still able to run the fastest lap of the entire race out of all 20 cars on the last lap of the race? Like, was he even trying when he was getting up to 22-second lead? I don't think it just seems like the circuit and kind of the history of it, even with Max's dominance over the past couple of years, hasn't been able to stretch out that huge lead, right? And get that big victory. So I think it's not going to be as short as we've seen a lot of them lately. I think it's not going to be as long as we saw like last week. I think 6 to 12 makes a lot of sense. Spoiler alert, I think it's going to be Lando Norris, but I think he is going to do it and get it between 6 and 12 seconds. So give me that as the winning margin at plus 275 over on DraftKings.
Yeah, again, this is we have seen that the margins have been a lot lower lately because I think a lot of it has come from the fact that they're so close together now, right? These cars are really close together, with McLaren catching up, with Mercedes catching up.
We've seen a lot of good battles and different winners. I mean, really, if you look over the last handful of races, Lewis has won, George has won, Lando's won, Oscar's won, Max has won. All these guys have won, and it's just none of it have really been super dominating efforts. But that's why I think it's going to kind of land in between, where it's not going to be complete total domination, but we're going to get a big enough lead stretched out. And if you look at some of the things, like Lando could have won by a ton if he didn't secede that lead to Oscar based on the pit strategies, right, and all of that stuff. Like, that lead would have been a lot bigger had they just let Lando run it out. So, and then again, yes, Preston backing me up. The best thing that could happen today, Rod. He says, like this margin too, being his only difference will be the size of your nuts, under braking. Shouldn't be a runaway, but I like maybe a bit of a gap for breathing room. Thank you. And he also says, Rod, I like your bets too. I promise I'll bet McLaren fastest stop with you.
That's all right. I
even got a heart emoji.
Thank you. I love you too, Preston. That's definitely the good vote of confidence that I need. Look, and it's tough because, finding value this week is not necessarily all that easy. But I will say, as I look ahead now to the winners of this race, I know that, like I said, it's been a few years since Ferrari's put a car in victory on the top step of the podium, I guess, if I'll use the right vernacular, of this particular racetrack. However, we have seen Charles Leclerc and we have seen Carlos Sainz be fast this season. They're usually fast when it comes to this track. I'm going to just pick Ferrari as the winner. They have Ferrari as the winning manufacturer at plus 750. Plus, I'm also going to say, if you wanted to do another partial unit type of a thing and throw one on Leclerc at 14-1 and Sainz at 22-1, the likelihood of this race ending up Lando winning or Max winning, obviously the books tend to fall that way too. And you can bet that, and that's fine, because that's probably what's going to end up happening. But I will say that, in my opinion, this is the year. This is the year Ferrari finally gets to celebrate a victory in their own backyard. Because Max has been, the last couple seasons, no one caught him, right? And everybody was chasing after him. And even Leclerc, who had finished second, even Sainz couldn't really find him as well. Like, it was just tough. It was tough for everybody to catch him. Now, guess what? He's wide open, right? And so one of these guys is going to be able to get him. Somebody's going to be able to get him. And I think that if you take Ferrari at plus 750 as the winning manufacturer, you'd be good. Or you could sprinkle a couple of little sprinkles on both guys. Leclerc at 14-1 and Sainz at 22-1 to win this race.
Yeah, it's hard to argue this. Like, the number is right, especially for the more parity that we're seeing right now, right? It's not a shocking thing. Ferrari wins at times. It's not always super consistent, and a lot of times they seem to still kind of shoot themselves in the foot, although that's, knock on wood, gotten a little bit better here lately. Charles Leclerc's been on the podium the last two races. I mean, he was within 3 seconds of Max last week. in third to Max's second. Of course, Lando was way ahead of him, but still hanging up there with them. Their straight line speed's been pretty good. Preston made actually some pretty good points again in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord, get in there for guys like Preston and their analysis that they're giving us early in the week over there on what they see and think about some of these teams. I think he made some good points as well. So, yeah, I like this. Going all in on Ferrari can be scary, but you're getting good numbers, and that's the things. Plus 750, plus 1,400, plus 2,200, all very good numbers to get in on them. And if they come out and they look good in qualifying, which they've done fairly decent here lately, especially Leclerc has been on the pole the last 2 years at this track, right? So
he was on the pole in 2022, third in 2023. He does have a win in 2019 from the pole.
So there you go. I think that I don't have too much of an argument for the number that they are at, Rod, but I am putting on my papaya right now, and I'm all in on the McLaren guys. Give me Lando Norris plus 120. Give me Oscar Piastri at plus 650. Look, I think that the tide has shifted, right? And it seems that this is the top team now. It seems that this is the fastest team. They kind of continue to show us that. They're in the mix every single week. And I think that, I'm not projecting that Lando is just the next Max and we're going to get to the point where, you're going to be thankful for the days where you got him at plus 120. Maybe we're not quite getting there just yet, but plus 120 on a winner is never super sexy. But Lando is he's gotten it done, right? He's got a couple of career wins now. We've gotten that monkey off the back. We're starting to get comfortable, and he just kicked everybody's ass in Max's hometown last week. Like, if Max is going to show up and really try somewhere and really put it to him if he can, it's last week at the Dutch Grand Prix, and he finished 22 seconds behind Lando Norris. I think that Lando Norris is the man right now. Again, you could argue he should have 3 wins if he doesn't allow Oscar, play the good teammate. Oscar should have won the race and earned it anyways. But he, at the end of that race, he'd gotten up there. 7 top 2 finishes in the last 11 races. Been pretty good. One last week, of course. All in on Lando Norris. And then I think a good bet to place with that is Oscar Piastri. He's been top 2 3 of the last 5 races, top 4 of 5 races in a row, 9 times this season on the top 4. He's been right there with Lando this entire time. Lando seems to be the lead man, obviously, in the McLarens, but at plus 650, Oscar can go out there and get it done. We saw him already get that victory earlier this season. Wouldn't be shocked to see him do it again. So I think I'm pretty much all in on Lando here, and then just backing it up a little bit with Oscar at plus 650. I think that number is just too big for both of these cars being extremely good. And even though Lando's the clear better of the two, Oscar can still get it done. And it seems like McLaren's going to do the right thing by him if he's the one who ends up in there and is the one that's getting it done.
Yeah, I mean, they've already proven that they'll mix and shuffle and mix. So, even when Lando's the one, I don't know. Are they kicking themselves now for letting Piastri get to his win in there earlier? I don't know.
I don't think so. I think you had to, especially for like the team dynamics and stuff because Oscar had truly earned that. It's not like they gave it to him. He had earned it. They played the strategy a certain way to make sure that they didn't get beat. It worked. And then that obviously put Lando in the situation to be that far ahead. But really, it's only because the way they did it, it wouldn't have been done that way if Lando wasn't the other guy. I think that shows the craftsmanship and the smartness. I'm not smart enough to figure out the word, but the smartness that McLaren is putting behind this and their strategies, and it's really been working out for them. I think that giving that to them, probably good for both drivers, really good for the team overall. So I think that, and look, it seems like it's worked out pretty well since then, right? Things going pretty good in the papaya camp. So I think that's just going to keep rolling. And I know Preston, big McLaren fan, and he was talking about doesn't know if they're going to have the speed here and all that. I get the arguments against it, but if I'm starting to see that they're the best right now, I'm going to pounce on that and ride with it.
Smart ability. That's how I'm going to make that new word. That is going to be our phrase for the F1 Gambling Podcast. The smart ability of me and you for doing all that stuff. All right, get out your pen and paper. We are going to go over these picks for the Italian Grand Prix. Cody, well, I started you off with Max Verstappen to win the pole at plus 250. Also decided to sprinkle in Leclerc at 11-1 on the pole. He's done that already over the last couple of seasons. Cody gave you Pierre Gasly as a top 10 inside the points at plus 450. I followed that up with Lando to finish second at plus 350. Cody gave you Albon as a top 6 driver at 16-1. I said that Ferrari would have the fastest pit stop at plus 550 or McLaren at plus 550. Cody gave you the winning margin between 6 and 12 seconds at plus 275. I said that Ferrari as a manufacturer would be the winner at plus 750. I also said that if you wanted to break that apart for Leclerc at 14-1 and Sainz at 22-1, that'd be fine. And then Cody gave you the McLarens, Lando at plus 120 and Oscar at plus 650 to win this race. Preston, Hot Rod, CZ, another great show. Let's get rich. And when we do, I expect to see more papaya. Cheers, guys. Hashtag smartability. There it is.
There you go. I love it. Smart ability. It's yeah. It's ours now. You can't take it from us.
Nope. We have definitely created a new language amongst the two of us. All right. That'll do it for the for this episode of the F1 Gambling Podcast. Thanks for all hanging out with us and taking a ride. Looking forward to another, like I said, another week of F1. I always love it when they give us back-to-back weeks because then I get to watch F1 for back-to-back weeks.
Exactly. You can't ever really complain about that. So I love it.
I love it too. All right, Cody. Well, then, as we go away and get ready for this weekend, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, follow me over on the X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff there. Yeah, there's a lot of it. Make sure you check out the NASCAR Gambling Podcast as well. And then if you want to see the YouTube version of this, if you're listening on the podcast, if you want to see Rod's beautiful face, it's over on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast channel. So make sure you subscribe there and you can join us live and jump in the chat like Preston and JDK and all these wonderful people have.
Love it. Follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on. Of course, like Cody said, check out the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Also check out In Between Media and Sportsbook Review. It's all there for you. All right, we'll see you guys next week to break down Italy and give you a taste of another week of F1 racing. So until then, let's go racing and let it ride.